Hello and welcome. This is my attempt to explain the ending of Bioshock Infinite. If you haven't seen it, get the hell out. Alright? If you have seen it, great. You might have some questions. I'm here to answer those for you. Or if you haven't seen it, maybe you're just curious. Whatever. Spoiler alert. Get the hell out if you haven't seen it. The game's great. Getting right into it. A lot of people are confused about the plot holes, and I'm sorry, forgive me, I have to speak quickly. I have a 15-minute limit, and normally this takes me like a half an hour to explain, so I gotta move fast. Feel free to rewind. Um, the game has a few plot holes in it. Plot holes being like, well, aren't there universes where Booker is never hitting the baptism? Oh, what about Comstocks? That aren't killed off by his drowning event. Wouldn't that only kill like one Comstock? What about Bookers that decide not to drown? No, screw that. Chaos theory doesn't apply here. Okay, they show you sort of a pseudo chaos theory, one that is like it but not quite. I analyze it, analogize it, or whatever the word is, to a magnet. The universe is one of constants and variables, like the magnetic field around a magnet. Um, Here's your constant. Every line, every universe spawns from one major event. But no matter where those lines go, they always end up at the same place, another major event. These are your universal constants, and these are your variants. The baptism, which I've marked with a B here, is a universal constant. And out of it, Booker has two choices: to accept baptism or reject it, become Comstock or become Booker, right? But there's actually two more variables that come out of each of those. So you have a branch and then another branch. Comstock can succeed, or we can see it as Elizabeth does not get saved. In this case, New York is destroyed. Booker can sometimes die along the way, join the Vox Populi, things can go weird. In the end, if Elizabeth isn't saved from Comstock's grasp, she will destroy New York. Alternatively, she can be saved, and everything's okay. Secondly, if you're Booker, Booker can either sell Anna or keep Anna. This will become clearer in a second. See, the whole game is sort of about the universe being torn apart. This happens because of Lutece and because of Comstock. Comstock is the reason. You see, there's a voxophone somewhere around Grand Central Station that clearly states that what Lutece's field is would remain a field without Comstock's money. So no Comstock, no Lutece tear, right? So it's her tear that first causes Comstock to be able to see the future, to do the things that he does, and to steal Anna, turning her into Elizabeth. Now, this is important because of what happens at the events of stealing Anna when she loses her finger, right? She exists between dimensions. So, these dimensions, this sort of split, causes her to have the ability, she transcends universes. So she can rip them apart and change them as she sees fit. Granted, she doesn't actually change universes. I like to think of her ability more as a universal Google. She said it's a wish fulfillment thing, but clearly she's not creating new universes as much as she is just stepping into new ones by using her power to find ones in situations that she desires. Unfortunately, her search parameters aren't specific enough, and so she ends up, while Chen Lin is alive, he's screwed up, or while the machines are in the right place, Chen Lin is dead, etc., etc. Wish fulfillment, but she's not specific. So, in this situation, as the game progresses, we see more and more tearing. The universe is falling apart, right? We see it first with just a few tears here to prophesize, to take Anna back, but now Anna can do it as well. Elizabeth can do it, really. And she starts to tear holes here and there, and that causes problems in Columbia. Everything's centered around Columbia, and that's why they can start to see tears opening up. There's a kinetoscope that talks about this. It shows you them. What are these mysterious holes? Whatever, don't get near them. They're dangerous. So the issue is that the universe is falling apart. Chen Lin gets caught between dimensions. he is too close to a tear when they step through. So, unfortunately, he's sort of screwed up. Likewise with the people that you just killed right before stepping through a tear, they're too close. They're too close in proximity. They didn't quite make the transition. So, when she rips that dimension open, she gets people caught between. That's why they're all screwed up. That's why the Benjamin Franklin, George Washington faces at the end of the game in the Asylum are screwed up as well. Because there's tears all over the place. And they're starting to get caught between worlds. Things are really screwed up. This gets exacerbated as you move through the game. You go from seeing tears and ripping things in and out of dimensions to just seeing them be there just because. You can hear things through them, you can see things through them. And at the end of the game, there's so many tears that they fill the sky like stars. And there's even some tears that you can see the shape of them. They don't all look like stars. If you look to the right of the lighthouse, you can see that some of them are definitely like tears in the fabric of space and time. The universe is totally screwed up. Alright? This is because of Comstock. And it's because of any timeline that Comstock influences. I.e., there are bookers who run into Comstock. And those bookers will sell Anna because Comstock puts Booker in debt and then takes Anna away, causing there to be a tear in his timeline as well. However, there's a Comstock-free timeline that we see where Booker keeps Anna. We saw that after the credits. You see, what happens in this game is like what happens with magnets. All of these lines spawn, but a few of them coalesce back into a point where they are ended. This is the drowning event. You see, when New York gets destroyed, that's fine. It all comes back and joins back with timelines where Elizabeth is saved, and it all comes back. And so are the ones where Booker sells Anna. They all come back to one point. This is our second universal constant, the drowning. You see, Booker here has influence over these timelines. He has the ability to end them. It's important to note, however, that his influence happens only to these timelines. Okay? Well, he is taken back in the past to be baptized again, to accept baptism. But again, he rejected it. Okay? He kind of got wrapped up in his thoughts, almost like he was taking over his past self, and I think that's part of what's going on here. They go back to the baptism, but instead of that happening, it's more like a drowning event, is what I call it, the drowning event. That ends the idea of Comstock, okay? That ends any instance of Comstock ever existing. His very notion ceases to be. So all three of these timelines, any timeline involving Comstock, and any timeline that Comstock influences, this Booker, are ended. Comstock can't influence Booker and have him sell Anna if he never existed, right? So these three timelines are ended. This one, where Booker keeps Anna, where Comstock never influenced him, that timeline is still intact. Note also that these three timelines have one major thing in common, that the universe was torn in those timelines. The universe was not torn in the final timeline. So you can think of it like this, that the universe, because of the baptism event, is fractured. And then, because of the universe's need to repair itself, found a way. Now, I'm not talking about the universe being some sort of sentient being that fixed itself. No, but the fact that you're playing the game at all means that the universe must still be intact. It does not get completely ripped asunder. So, somehow, it resolves itself. One Booker will always succeed. We see this at the end of the game when you can see multiple Bookers and Elizabeths walking around. You're not the only one to do this. This is something that keeps happening. Each timeline is parallel to each other, but they exist at different points in time, much like the magnetic fields. On this line here, only a short amount of time happens between one universal constant and the next. However, in this one, it takes longer to get there. You could think of this blue line here as one where Anna or Elizabeth destroys New York. It exists for a longer period of time before being resolved at the second universal constant. constant. What is unlike a magnet, however, is that there is one line that does not reach the baptismal sort of resolution in drowning. That one line is the one uninfluenced by Comstock. It's uninfluenced by the rest of the field. So when this line reaches out, it remains there, always. And so it will always exist. As the other three timelines resolve themselves, this one will continue on. In this way, it resolves everything. Every plot hole is tied up here. There's no magic hand waving if you look at it like this. That there is always a baptism. But any timeline influenced negatively, any timeline influenced with tears, eventually is resolved in a drowning event that cancels out or erases those timelines. Now, granted, there are other universes that haven't quite reached the baptism yet, and when they do, they'll spawn another few branches that go out. But at the end of the day, those corrupted, torn branches are all resolved in a drowning event, leaving only one remaining possibility, and that is that Booker keeps Anna because Comstock never existed to influence him in the first place. I think that this really well sums up the story and the ending of Bioshock Infinite and why it can seem confusing and seem plot-hole. We know that the writers of Bioshock are better than leaving gaping plot holes like chaos theory, but the thing is, this isn't chaos theory. There's constants and variables. Certain things always happen. In this case, it would be like if you had only ever known the game of soccer, and you suddenly watched a game of basketball. And what are you going to do? Are you going to call a penalty when the guy picks up the ball and starts dribbling it? No. Stop it trying to apply rules to a game where they don't belong. Likewise, this isn't chaos theory. Yes, it's close to it, but there are certain changes that you have to accept. And one of them being, the baptism always happens, right? That there are certain outcomes that are inevitable. New York is either saved or destroyed. There's no Comstock that ever doesn't have the vision of New York being destroyed and aim for that. It's always something that happens in Columbia. Likewise, Bookers will always come to try and save Elizabeth. Some will fail, but at least one will always succeed. We saw multiple Bookers succeeding, okay? And then those timelines that were influenced by that particular baptism event are resolved. Later on, a new baptism will come and repeat the cycle, but we're always left with one resolution. Booker keeps Anna. Any other outcome is gone. It's erased because of the drowning event. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll try to respond to them in comments. And I'm not opposed to making another video clarifying some things. I know I had to talk fast, but that's the ending explained. And hopefully it's good enough to sort of put to rest all these doubts and all this, like, the writers, do they suck that bad? They don't. Because I think that they had this in mind, because it all plays by their rules. So, yeah. Thanks for watching.